People are more eco-conscious or they want to be cremated or whatever.
These things.
Yeah.
They want
Small
to be put in
towns
a
don't
tree
do that.
pod.
Yeah, tree pod, yeah. Small towns, that's not a thing.
You can actually do
In
that.
a little tube.
Yeah, and it grows a tree
I think
out of
that's
it.
what happened to my grandmother.
Really?
Interesting.
If I remember right. Yeah, we just put a little capsule in a piece of brick. I don't know. But you're right, it could change. Welcome to this episode of Prairiepreneur. We have Tiffany Trejo on our show today, and we are excited to have her, and we appreciate you coming on and hanging out with us. We're a little bit crazy.
I like crazy.
We could be a little unfiltered or filtered.
Mine is the unfiltered. Chris is usually very filtered. He says like golly and G and
Golly.
Mylanta. Or
Yes.
no, Mylando.
Mylando.
Yes. Okay.
I do say dang.
And she's hung around me. She knows that I say 4-letter words.
Anyhow,
and I have
whatever.
an affinity for the F1.
We just want you to be yourself, and we have no script, and we're pretty spontaneous. But we'd love to talk to you about your business and a little bit about you. So, but what were you going to say before we got into?
So Tiffany is one of my clients.
Okay.
And that's how we met. We met through a mutual friend, Martha, that was also a client.
Did I do her home loan?
No,
Why?
because that's not how this started. I don't think you and I were working together then.
Okay.
So anywho.
It's like 6 years ago now.
It
Yeah.
was 6 years ago.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So that was pre-Leslie and Chris show.
Pre-Leslie and Chris show.
So
See,
anyway.
I like the Leslie and Chris, but whatever. Prairiepreneur.
So Tiffany, I don't even know, you were still going to school at the time.
Yeah, I didn't have Black Label yet.
Okay. And then I just watched it kind of progress on social media, and I'm like, holy smokes, check this gal out. So I just thought it was really cool. And that's why I invited Tiffany to be on the show today. So I want to tell people, so Chris usually asks this question, but I'm going to run this for a minute. So tell us a little bit about Tiffany growing up, like where you're from, how many siblings you have, any funny kid stories you can think of that kind of tie into Tiffany today.
Ooh, okay. Well, I'm from Concordia, Kansas. So if you just go straight north, you'll just drive right through it and you'll head to Nebraska. But I have a weird story in the fact that I did not graduate from there. My mom had lived in Halstead, Kansas, so I graduated from there. But I actually ended up living with another family my senior year of high school. So I've kind of done like a lot of different things, family life-wise.
But all in Kansas.
All in Kansas. I lived in New York at one point, but that was like later in my life.
We want to hear this.
We'll get
New
there.
York, New York.
Not New York, New York. Everyone thinks that. Upstate New York.
Upstate
By
New
Canada.
York. That's probably kind of more like Kansas.
I mean, with a lot more trees.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like a prettier version of the prairie.
Yeah, I would say
They could
so.
have Prairiepreneur too.
Do they have
version
They
prairies
would
two.
have
in
Pine
there?
Treepreneur.
Yeah.
Pine Treepreneur? Maybe. Okay.
I have 3 siblings, so I'm the second oldest, but really I'm like the oldest, I feel like, personally. And I've lived in Wichita for, 10 years probably now. I came here to go to school at Wichita State, and I kind of got stuck here, except for my brief stint in upstate New York. So I lived there for about a year and a half. And the snow was insane. Like, Kansas, we get a little bit of snow, right? But there, like, we got like 3 feet in like an hour. And I was like, what am I supposed to do?
And it's probably really cold, right?
Oh, yeah, it was so
super
cold. Yeah. Yeah.
But in the summer, a whole nother story probably.
Yeah, it was humid, but not in the way we get 100 degrees plus humidity here.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I really enjoyed that aspect, but I ended up moving back to Kansas, and I've been here ever since.
So you have 2 siblings.
3.
3.
Yes.
3. And you grew up in a very small, is it kind of the town that if you blink, you would miss it type? Concordia?
A couple
I think
blinks.
maybe I've been by
Yeah.
Concordia. I've seen a sign or something
They
like
have
that.
stop
Yeah.
signs.
Stop. Yeah.
We do have stoplights.
It's not like a
Do you
whoa
have a
sign.
Starbucks?
No, they have
Yeah.
a scooters now,
Oh,
but
okay.
they didn't when I lived there.
So scooters now, in my opinion, is how a small rural town sort of hits it big time, but
Yeah.
not really. If you have a
Scooters and a Pizza
Starbucks,
Hut?
it's a big deal.
They do have a Pizza Hut.
Yep.
You have
That
a
was me when I
Starbucks,
went there.
it's the city. That's
Yeah,
just
no
a Chris
Starbucks.
interpretation. But do you know what I mean? Like, go to Augusta. There's a scooters,
Yep.
right? See what I mean?
Yep.
I'm telling you, there's a trend. Is Concordia closer to a bigger city in Nebraska or a bigger city in Kansas?
It's about an hour from Salina, So I think it's
probably about the same then.
yeah.
An equal distance to okay.
To like Omaha.
Did you like growing up in the country, Tiffany?
Well, I lived in town. I wasn't a country person.
Oh, that's not.
It doesn't seem country when you're from
you're
a small
city
town.
slicker.
Right.
Yeah, no. I had
That's
friends
crazy.
that, owned horses and did 4-H, and that
So
was not for
even
me.
out in a more rural area, there's still a delineation between country folks
Yeah.
and town people.
Yeah.
The town with the town hall. So you grew up with a dad who owns a business and runs a business.
So I helped a lot with like not bookkeeping because it wasn't numbers. It was more like the organizing the paperwork processes type thing, which is still like one of the things I really
Do you
enjoy
like
now.
to do that? You enjoy that?
Yeah, I like the puzzle piece part
Are you a detail-oriented person?
sometimes. It
Okay.
depends on what it is.
But you like paperwork.
I mean,
You like organizing
I like
paperwork
organizing things like
because
that.
it's like a puzzle.
Yeah.
That's a really good way to put that. I guess I don't like puzzles
So
because I can't do it. I can't organize anything.
so tell people about what you got your degree in.
Oh, yeah. So this kind of also feeds into my dad being a mortician. My degree is in forensic anthropology. I have a master's degree in it. But
so
do
you
I
could have
use
followed
it?
in
No.
that same.
I could have.
could have
I
followed
would
in
have had to
his
get
footsteps.
a funeral director's license, which is, I don't think, very hard to do. But yeah, I wanted to go the route of helping solve like missing people cases or just identifying, remains that they had found.
Kind of the behind the scenes of law enforcement
Yeah.
detective work.
Yep.
That's kind of cool. That's
It
kind of
is.
cool.
I worked on a few cases when I was in grad school, but unfortunately in Kansas, there's like 2 forensic anthropologists for the whole state because there's just not that many
Big
cases here.
Not a big market,
Yeah.
job market for that.
So I would have had to move to like New York City or DC or something like that. And
So
I wasn't interested.
Is that why you went? I was about to ask you, why did you go from small town? Did I say it right? Small town, Kansas, to New York, upstate
no.
New York.
No, I moved to New York because my mom was living there at the time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And I was like a sophomore in college when I was like, I want something new. That age. I
course.
was like 19.
Yep.
So I was like, why not? I have this opportunity to go somewhere that I've never been and live in a different, even though it's really similar politically and a lot of the alignments of like values were similar to Kansas. It was still just very different. Yeah, so when I went to need to go do my research in Tennessee, naturally academia is not really well funded anyways. You add anthropology into the mix and people are like, who are you? What do you want? There's no money for you. Good luck. And so I had to pretty much pay for this trip all by myself. And of course, they took forever to like go through all the paperwork. And so I had like a month until I had to travel. As I was working through this process, I worked at a law firm here in town, and a lady there made candles. And I remember this distinctly. I had this box that I was carrying to her because I was the runner at the law firm, so I'd sometimes bring them their mail. And I put on her desk, and I was like, hey, like, what's in this box? It says candle science on it. And she's like, oh,
Candle Science?
yeah, it's a wonderful website. If you've never made
Science.
candles, it's a great place to go. But they have so much stuff now compared to even like 4 or 5 years ago. She's like, come here, let me show you. And she like opens up her box and she's like, this is my wax. And these are my fragrances. Here, smell this. And
At a law firm.
yeah, she was a really sweet lady. And she's like, this is just something I do for fun.
Interesting.
And I was like, And she's like, come here, I'll show you the website. You should order this kit. And she like showed me all this stuff. And I was, of course, like a stressed out graduate student at the time. And I was like, maybe this could be fun. I don't know. I need a new hobby. But I have a tendency to add things to my plate versus taking them off.
Okay.
In hopes that it makes me feel better somehow.
Like more puzzles.
Yeah. I think my life is just a giant puzzle.
It's a giant puzzle.
So I really like to add a lot of
I think
pieces
a lot
to
of
my
people
puzzle.
resonate with that.
Yeah. It's not a bad thing.
Relate. A lot of people relate to that.
Yes. So I actually went and ordered like this kit, basic beginning kit of candle making like that day. And it came to my house and I started making these candles. And then I told my husband, I was like, do you think anyone would buy these? And he was like, no. No.
Thanks, Devin.
Yeah. I was like, oh, okay. I was like, but I need to fundraise money. And if people know it's a fundraiser and they get a candle out of it, they might be more apt to buying it. And it was about to be fall time. And so what perfect time to bring out candles in the fall. And so I just started offering
pumpkin spice or something like that.
I did do a pumpkin candle. I still have to this day. It's been in my rotation. And so I started doing that and put a Facebook post and was like, hey, here's some candles. Would you like to buy any so I can go to Tennessee? And people started buying. And then I got enough for my plane ticket, which I think was like $400 or $500 at the time. And I asked my husband again, hey, do you think I can make this into a business? And he was like, maybe. Now it kind of makes sense now. People are interested. And so I went to Tennessee in November of 2018, and I launched Black Label in March of 2019.
That's crazy. So you were trying, she was trying to, why were you trying to go to Tennessee again?
That was for my thesis research.
So you were literally trying to make some extra money on the side, not start a business.
No.
Just go finish your degree.
Yep.
That's pretty cool. I know you're thinking of something. I just don't know what you're...
So what made you decide on Black Label?
Oh, okay. We were talking about names earlier. Names are hard. I'm a very picky person. And I kept thinking of names. I'm like, that's stupid. Like, I thought, like, cottage candles. Like, that's not my aesthetic at all. Like, cottage, no. That's not me. And so I just kept thinking and thinking. I think I took probably 2 months to figure out a name. And I know
she
people
still
say
sold
this happens.
candles without labels.
I did. I sold them just bare silver tins. Here you go, burn a candle. Did that for months. It worked though.
That's awesome.
It worked.
That's a great story.
Yeah. So then I was literally laying in bed and I was like, Black Label. Black Label. So I wrote it down real quick, and then the next day I did like copyright search and all of that to see if it was available, and it was. And I said, all right, it's Black Label. And then we have black labels. So
and you're wearing black.
I love black. It's one of my favorite colors.
Well, maybe that.
Yeah.
But the label is very simplistic. It looks,
could have contributed.
Very sleek. It's just a good, simple, clean
brand.
Yep.
Black Label.
Yep.
Black Label candles, which includes a pumpkin candle, by the way.
Pumpkin souffle.
Pumpkin souffle.
Yes.
How many candles have you sold now, Tiffany?
I have
when
no
did this
idea.
start?
2019.
2019.
Yeah.
So right before COVID. And that, I assume, did that have any effect on your business?
It did, because in 2019 we went and sold at the farmers markets. It's kind of how we really tried to get our name out there. We didn't have our daughter yet or anything, so what else did we have to do? Let's go sell at a farmers market. And I did some events and just tried to grow social media wise. 2020 actually helped in a lot of ways push things online. Which I was like, oh, that's great, because I don't want to be going to markets every weekend if I can help it. So obviously, markets really slowed down in 2020. So that did affect revenue a little bit, but I wouldn't say we lost as much as you would think, especially when it came to 2020. And I did a lot of porch deliveries locally, because we have a big following locally. So I'd be like, hey, you know what? I will gladly drive around and drop candles off to you. Like, you don't want to leave your house, that's fine. It's no touch delivery, and you get great candles that you can burn now that you're stuck in your house all day, so it doesn't smell.
I would think that you would have a racket during COVID. Like, what else do you do?
So I remember, you'd kicked off the candle brand, and then you launched like this whole idea that I remember watching on social media. I was like, I'm going to pay off all my debt.
Yep.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about your whole thought process and what you did.
And this is an integral part that I completely forgot about, because it's been over 1.5 years now, and life has happened so much since then. Yeah, so my husband and I decided we want to be debt-free, and all we pretty much had, I had credit card debt when I was in grad school.
Were you watching Dave Ramsey?
We did some, yeah. And now there's parts of what he says that I don't necessarily agree with, like $1,000 emergency fund is not enough. I'm sorry. But we did a little bit of that. We did a little bit of research, and I had credit card debt, so I took care of that because we weren't married yet at the time. And then my student loans. So that's the bad part about going to grad school, is I had a lot of
Wow.
student loans, and we knew we wanted to get rid of those before we ever started a family. So, and we had bought a house.
Yep.
So there's the other thing. So one of the ways, there was multiple strategies we had to employ, of course. You can't just do one thing most of the time and do it
Now,
very
were
fast.
you trying to pay your mortgage off, or everything but your mortgage?
Everything but our mortgage,
That sounds pretty Dave Ramsey to me.
Well, we did start
Ish.
following it that way. Yeah.
Ish.
Yeah. I feel like the mortgage thing it's just such a waffling idea because like the market's different now. Is it better to invest and all that? But with the debt, so of course in grad school I made like no money because I was in grad school and I worked part-time. And then I did get, a big girl job, however you want to call it, adult job.
What's a big
when I
girl
left.
job?
Like a full-time working income job versus like.
That's called a big girl job? Yeah. I've never heard of this.
What would you call it?
And you have to wear your big girl panties.
You have to,
Big
you
girl
do.
job.
Pull your big pants on, your big girl pants, and get to it.
So hold on, I have to think about this.
He's trying to get a
So,
mental picture.
Okay.
a
I don't know if you
big girl
should.
Job. Well, I've never heard this before.
Just a grown-up job.
Grown-up job. Yeah.
Oh.
You're a grown-up now. You get a
like
full-time
you're
job.
supposed to-
But you went to college for a.
But that's what
Big
you're supposed
grown-up
to do.
job.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
And so she
Exactly.
finally got one.
When I graduated, yeah.
Oh.
So that obviously increased our income. But then my goal was to use Black Label as a way to keep throwing
Wow.
at it. Now, the real key here is 2020 up until like, what was it? 2021? No, they just resumed payments on student loans.
Yep.
When everyone else stopped paying,
Yeah.
we threw as much money as we could. So there was no interest
Wow.
for what, 2
Yeah,
years
right.
at this point?
No, it's smart.
We paid it off in April of 2022.
So
Went to
what was
Hawaii.
your debt that you had?
$78,000.
Wow. And you paid most of that or all of that off through this side little hustle
I would say like
doing candles.
maybe half of it, not just candles.
I love business stories that are born kind of by accident. I mean, I don't believe anything's an accident necessarily, but
Necessity.
Yeah.
yeah, like it's not something you didn't even go to school for it. Does that blow your mind? Or you
I
like how
mean,
do you look at that
sometimes-
right now? When you look back and think, I
spent
spent $78,000
I don't like
to
thinking
put
about that part.
puzzles together and get a grown-up or big girl job and now do nothing that has to do with
It makes
that.
me a little sad sometimes because
It
I
does?
really enjoyed that part. But realistically, I wasn't going to move for it.
So you're passionate about your career path.
I am.
Right.
I just consume it in different ways now, like through true crime.
What's
Or
that?
true crime? Like true crime podcasts.
Yeah.
What do you mean you don't know what
I
that
don't
is?
even know the name of ours, let alone any. No, I'm just kidding. I watch a lot of podcasts, but true crime podcasts. I think I've heard of that actually. So
Yeah.
that is something. When we talked about that with another entrepreneur we had on before you, and that was passion related to entrepreneurship and to owning a business. And I don't know. Did we get like a really clear answer on that, or is it kind of subjective-ish?
Well, what we were talking about on the podcast before this one was he was talking about looking at different numbers and analyzing businesses. And I said, so what factor does passion play into this? Because he was like, he was saying that he doesn't just look at fitness or restaurant, or a lot of people are just putting themselves into a category. And it's like, do I
Like
want a
they're
Mexican
passionate
restaurant?
about
Do
what
I
they're
want
selling.
a hamburger joint? Yeah, they're passionate about having a restaurant. And he said
I don't
that
think
he
Ray
was
Kroc
just,
was passionate about buns and burgers. Do you?
I
think he
don't
was
know.
passionate
I think he
about
was paid very well.
a
He should have been
playbook
super
and
passionate.
a franchise model.
Yeah.
That's just my 2 cents.
So
anyway,
anyway, but he said you can look at business and be passionate about building a brand, building employees, changing people's lives,
Different-
changing your own life.
different
Yeah, there's different avenues to be
to
passionate
funnel it.
about for business.
do you feel like that's true?
Yeah. When I started Black Label, I wasn't purely passionate about just
do you like
making
candles?
I do like candles. I used to make burn a lot of like Bath and Body Works candles. Now, like, I would probably burst
Probably
into
look
flames.
at them different.
Yeah, they're
Those are
not
top-
great for you.
You definitely can't
shouldn't
eat
say
those.
Allegedly, they're toxic, but I don't
Can
know.
you say
She
that?
hasn't done the research on
it-
those.
I have not done.
She
the
hasn't
research.
sampled
She
200
has not
of them
sampled.
to
No,
know.
it's 1,000, not 200. You
Yeah,
got to sample 1,000 before you can come to right.
I mean it depends.
I
on
have
the-
no. I am not I'm the farthest thing from a scientist.
I don't think I'm a
Sure.
scientist, but that's part of what I liked about candles is that there are sciencey parts about it where you have to pay attention to ratios and different fragrances you work with, different waxes. They all require different numbers, and so again, it's a puzzle.
It's almost like the color, like a hex code.
Yeah. Kind of, yeah.
Did you say that? It's true.
I mean, you could assign like some type of hex code.
A hex code is basically the it's a alphanumerical
yeah
equation. I don't know, to make a color.
Yeah.
Digitally on a computer. By the way, right?
Yeah.
Am I saying that right?
Yeah.
Are you not following that?
That makes sense.
You've never seen a hex code?
I guess not.
Do you work with on Canva?
Yellow Taxi, or what was the name of that band? Yeah.
Yellow Card.
Okay.
Oh,
Do
you never heard of Yellow Card?
Oh, see. Do you like rock and roll, Tiffany?
Well, I grew up being pretty alternative, so.
Yes. Did you listen to Nirvana? Were you a big Nirvana fan?
No.
Oh.
I wasn't. That was a little like.
That was before her time.
Oh, was
Yeah.
that before? Oh.
Yeah, a little bit. I'm like I said, I'm a millennial.
Like that was the year she was born.
I don't know what year that was.
Nirvana
I can't
came
tell
out.
you.
Yeah. In the 90s.
Oh boy.
Oh yeah, I was born in the
We're
90s.
old. I'm old.
Yes,
At least.
you are.
What are your 2 favorite candle smells, fragrances, flavors,
your house.
whatever you
For
call
my
them?
house, our autumn fig, which is a fall candle, it's just a really nice transitional scent. Like I think it goes really well from fall to winter, so you don't have to like switch right away. And the fig is a really different scent that you don't find in a lot of candles, because you can find a lot of pumpkin candles, you find a lot of apple candles, you find a lot of amber candles, which our dark amber is, unfortunately for me, our best seller. I'm so tired of that scent, but people demand it, so it is what it is. And then my other favorite is probably Christmas Hearth, which is like a big Christmas scent.
Okay.
It's very hit or miss for people, but
So like
to
a
me,
pine
it's
fragrance?
nostalgic.
You love it,
It
or
has-
you don't?
It's
Does it smell like Concordia?
No.
Okay.
It smells like how I'd imagine if I was like on the East
knows?
Coast in some like mountain town, like Hallmark. Like Hallmark.
It smells like
Do
Hallmark.
you watch Hallmark shows?
Yeah,
Oh,
that's a guilty
wow.
pleasure. You wouldn't think,
just
probably
don't
knowing
get
me,
it.
that I do. It's
I wouldn't
the
have
fact
guessed
that
that.
it always ends in happiness. It's a comfort
Well,
thing. That's
I
what it
wish
is.
that movie that Tom Hanks was in with the volleyball. I wish that was a Hallmark movie.
Castaway.
Yeah, it sucked. I didn't like that ending. It was so sad.
Could you
was-
imagine if that was a
I was
Hallmark
mad.
movie?
I went with Keisha. She's like, "What'd you think?" I said, "I hate that movie."
People love to ask me questions all the time about making candles, and I have no problems answering questions. Now, probably when I first started, I'd probably been like, no, those are my secrets. But truthfully, you can go on YouTube. You can Google how to make a candle. It's not rocket science. It truly isn't. It's a pretty simple process. It's just the numbers that can be tricky at times.
But is that where your signature's at though, or your like custom touch that you can't buy anywhere else? Is
Yeah.
the fact that you made it and it was your recipe?
Yeah. So
Am I right? Am I getting at the right?
I think that's part of
Yes,
it, but
that's
I
part of
also
it.
think it's like you're just more consistent. I mean, like somebody
Yes.
else could look at it and go, "Oh, I'm going to start making candles today, or I'm going to start selling real estate or doing mortgages today." But there's still something about being successful that you're just doing it at a different level
yeah.
than somebody else. You're more consistent at doing 200 candles a day. We've had this conversation, I don't know how many times. But I think that's what makes the difference, because I can sit and tell real estate stories and give examples and teach things all day on social media, which I do. And I see some people that are doing some of the things now that I've put out, but for them to go in and do everything that Tiffany's doing, or everything that I'm doing, or everything you do, most people just can't perform that way.
Yeah. I mean, it's taken me years to perfect the different things I do and figure out the workflows and what people want to listening to the customers.
So would Evan ever consider hanging up the military career and coming to work at Black Label?
I mean, he's civilian side now, but he actually
Okay.
works on base still, so
Okay.
it's kind of hilarious in that sense. But no, I don't think so.
Do you think you guys could work together?
Yes and no. I'm a little bossy.
I don't know anything about that.
Maybe not bossy. I am, what's the word for?
I want it done a certain way, and it's my
Yes.
way.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't like this term bossy. I'm not bossy.
You're
I'm
a
just-
higher D.
Have you ever
on
taken
the
a DISC
test.
personality test?
Yes.
Yeah.
Driven.
Yes. It's great, but also
Bossy.
not
Specific. That's what I call it.
specific. Yeah.
That's
And
very
outspoken.
That's not what David calls it, but that's what I'm going to call
specific.
it.
Yeah.
One more thing.
Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
If somebody
And,
wants to buy a candle, is your website back up and running?
It is. Yeah.
Okay, what's the website that they can go to?
blacklabelcandleco.com.
Okay.
Follow us on Instagram at blacklabelcandleco.
There you go.
Awesome. Love it. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.